Today we are going to improve our spoken English with the Hollywood movie named Me Before You, 2016. If you find this class helpful, please support our channel. Louisa Clark's life had always been simple. She loved little things: warm tea, her favorite bumblebee-striped tights, and the comforting routine of her small town. She never thought much about the future. She had a job at a cozy cafe where she served coffee, chatted with regular customers, and enjoyed the familiarity of it all. But when the cafe suddenly closed, everything changed. Her family needed her. Her father was struggling to find work, her mother was a full-time caregiver for Lou's grandfather, and her younger sister, Trina, was juggling college and raising her little boy. Lou had no choice. She had to find a job, and she had to find one fast. At the job center, she was presented with a strange offer: a high-paying position as a caregiver for a wealthy family. The job didn't require any medical experience, just companionship for a man who had been in an accident. The salary was too good to ignore, so, despite her doubts, she went for the interview. When she arrived at the Trainer estate, she immediately felt out of place. The mansion was grand and intimidating, a world away from her own cramped but cozy home. Camilla Trainer, a well-dressed, serious woman, explained the role. Her son, Will Trainer, had been a man who embraced life, skydiving, traveling, doing everything with passion. But 2 years ago, an accident had left him paralyzed from the chest down. He was no longer the man he used to be. He had given up. Lou was unsure if she was the right person for the job, but the pay was too important to her family, so she agreed. The first time she met Will, he barely acknowledged her. He sat in his wheelchair, staring out the window, his expression distant. "You can tell my mother this won't work," he muttered, his voice cold. Lou blinked, taken aback. "Then I guess I'll just have to prove you wrong," she shot back. The first few days were difficult. Will ignored her, speaking only when necessary, and when he did, his words were sharp. "You don't have to make conversation," he said one day as she tried to chat about the weather. "But I like talking," Lou responded, determined not to be pushed away. She tried everything to get a reaction out of him. She wore her quirkiest outfits, bright skirts, patterned tights, just to see if he'd comment. When he didn't, she started bringing in ridiculous gossip magazines, reading out loud as if they were the most important news of the day. One rainy afternoon, as she struggled with his wheelchair ramp and accidentally got her coat stuck in the door, Will let out a chuckle. It was quiet, almost unnoticeable, but it was there. It was the first time she had seen him smile. Encouraged, she kept pushing. Slowly, his sarcasm became less cruel and more playful. She noticed how he listened when she spoke, even if he pretended not to care. One evening, she found herself in the kitchen with Nathan, Will's nurse. He was kind and easygoing, the only one who truly understood what Will was going through. "He wasn't always like this," Nathan said. "Before the accident, he was unstoppable. But now, well, he thinks his life is over." Lou frowned. "It doesn't have to be." Then, one night, she overheard a heartbreaking conversation between Camilla and her husband, Stephen. "He still wants to go through with it," Camilla whispered. Lou froze. "He's given us 6 months," Camilla continued, her voice shaking. "Then he's going to Switzerland." Lou felt her stomach drop. Switzerland. Assisted suicide. Will was planning to end his life. The realization hit her like a wave. She had thought things were getting better. How could he give up when she had just started to bring him back to life? That night, Lou couldn't sleep. She made a decision. She would change his mind. Her first plan was small outings. She convinced Will to go to the horse races, even though the uneven ground made maneuvering his wheelchair difficult. When she saw the flicker of enjoyment in his eyes, she knew she was onto something. Next was a classical music concert. Will didn't say much, but as he closed his eyes and let the music wash over him, Lou saw something she hadn't seen before. peace. But the hardest moment came when Alicia, Will's ex-girlfriend, invited him to her wedding. "Do you want to go?" Lou asked hesitantly. Will smirked. "Why not? Let's see what I missed out on." Lou helped him dress in a sharp suit, and when they arrived, she could feel people staring. Will was once the life of the party, but now guests weren't sure how to act around him. During dinner, Alicia and her husband greeted him warmly, but there was guilt in their eyes. Then the music started. Lou hesitated before walking over to him. "May I have this dance?" she asked. Will raised an eyebrow. "I think you'll be doing most of the dancing." "That's fine by me." She sat on his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck, and they swayed gently. It was the closest they had ever been. That night, as they drove home, Lou couldn't help but smile. She was getting through to him. Determined to show him that life could still be beautiful, she planned a grand trip, a vacation to a beautiful island. The beach was breathtaking, blue skies, warm sand, and the sound of waves crashing on the shore. For the first time, Will seemed relaxed. One evening, as the sun set, Lou sat beside him. "I love you, Will," she whispered. He turned to her, sadness in his eyes. He reached out, his fingers barely moving, but his touch was warm. "You don't understand," he said softly. "I can't be the man I used to be, and I can't live like this." Lou's heart broke. "But we could be happy." Will shook his head. "You deserve more." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't want more. I want you." But his mind was made up. The trip, no matter how beautiful, hadn't changed his decision. Back home, Lou locked herself in her room, refusing to speak to him. She had given him everything, and it still wasn't enough. But then, at the last moment, she made a choice. She traveled to Switzerland, where Will was saying his final goodbyes. Sitting beside him, she held his hand, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want you to go," she whispered. Will looked at her with love. "I need you to live." In his final moments, she memorized everything about him. And then, he was gone. After his passing, she felt empty. But then a letter arrived, a letter from Will. He had left her money not as charity, but as a gift to help her start a new life. He wanted her to explore the world, to experience things. Sitting in a Parisian cafe, Lou read his words with tears in her eyes. He was gone, but his love had changed her forever. She took a deep breath. She wasn't just Louisa Clark from the cafe anymore. She was someone who had loved and been loved in return. And now it was her turn to live.